All right, Jordan, we're back with our YouTube friends. No live version this week. We didn't haven't figured out that technology yet, I guess, huh?
I figured we save it for North Wilkesboro.
How are we going to do a live thing in North Wilkesboro? I mean, we'll
What are
both
you
be
doing?
there, but where are we going to find the Wi-Fi and the media room? And there's
Well,
no.
I figured this out. By the time we get done with all the post-race activities and everything, the suites have been cleared out. We both have recorded in suites before at racetrack, so we just trek on over and find an empty suite, and we'll record up there.
Oh wow, you're thinking ahead. Okay,
Hey, I'm a planner, Jeff. I'm a planner.
I
One, I care
guess.
about this podcast, and two, I'm a planner.
All right, all right. Well, you're there wearing you don't have a floating black backdrop anymore. You've upgraded.
I've upgraded.
So kudos to that. You're wearing a
Thank you.
leisure suit there, or not
Track
leisure suit,
suit,
track suit,
green, lime
jumpsuit,
green Adidas tracksuit. It's not a leisure suit. It's a tracksuit. These are what the
track
kids
suit.
wear nowadays.
Yeah. Are you in honor of us going to Miami for our staff meeting this week? You're
Yep.
all Miami'd out. Okay.
I've got all my sports coats are all packed from Miami. So we'll see. Hopefully you dress to impress as well.
Would this be? No?
Yeah, I mean it's on brand.
It is on.
It's
I
on
don't have
brand.
much. I don't have a stretch for my brand. Yeah. You got to get creative with your brand. All right, let's talk about this Dover race. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck, and I'm along with my coworker, Jordan Bianchi. We are motorsports writers for The Athletic, and we are here today to talk about the postponed / rescheduled Dover race, which just ran here on a Monday afternoon. And, I don't know how many of you got to watch it, so hopefully we'll try to recap everything that happened. But Martin Truex Jr. Completes the Truex family weekend sweep, not something you see very often, as Ryan Truex won the Xfinity race on Saturday. Martin gets it done on Sunday to snap a 54 race winless streak. And it was I thought pretty good, especially for Dover standards. I was fine with what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, for Dover standards, it was good. It was probably one of the better Dover races I've seen in recent memory. The way it worked out, we had different battles throughout the day for the lead. Byron was good at times, Truex obviously, then Chastain. It looked like Denny Hamlin was going to be in the mix. You had a lot of different guys in the mix at different times, and I kind of wish we didn't have that last caution there with Logano. But the nice thing was it was a natural caution. It wasn't debris caution or anything like that. It was a legit caution, and I would have liked to seen how that finished. It felt like Truex kind of had the better car, and he was going to kind of close it out, but you didn't know. And it was still good the last few laps there, because I thought with Chastain taking 4 fresh tires, I thought he was going to be really strong and be able to kind of use that to his advantage. And especially on the restart, I really expected him to be more aggressive, and he just didn't get a restart, and it was enough for Truex to kind of get a little bit of a gap there and hang on and get the win.
I mean, Chastain did get a pretty good restart, though. And that the move he made to get around Blaney was pretty
Woo.
decisive. But, I think that the tires maybe made a difference, but not, Truex had the tires on the right side that counted, right? I mean, those were the ones that really mattered. And
yeah, there was just enough laps where the difference wasn't going to play in the factor. I mean, if that would have been 5 or more laps, I think Chastain would have been had the advantage, but it was just enough for Truex to get away.
But I'll be honest though, Jordan, I thought, I don't know if James Small might have, given this one away here, because once Chastain cleared Blaney,
yeah,
and it was just okay, 4 tires versus 2, and there was still at that time maybe 3-4 laps to go or something like that, and I was like, well, he's gonna chase him down now, and the 4 tires are gonna prevail, because we had seen like the Kyle Busch instance, right, where he stayed out at one point to get track position. He restarted second or third or something, and then that was a 30-something lap run, and by the end of the run, he goes all the way backwards and gets lapped and is in 26 and even lost the free pass. So I'm like, okay, wow. I mean, you could see, obviously, from the start of the weekend, you could see tires were wearing quite a bit. And they wore in a different way on Friday, a much different way. I mean, the track took rubber this time. It wasn't just turning to dust like the other day, but, tires were still important, which is what we've been, everybody's been pleading for in a way, right? Like you wanted to see that make a difference. You want to see guys rise and fall. But I just thought, okay, 4 tires, maybe that's going to overcome track position. It just turned out that he had just enough. And I thought James Small had a really interesting comment afterwards too about why he made that decision and what made it easier, which was that one thing, there's a lot of talk about Ross Chastain's pit crew. They're super fast. They're super good. And so he said, I'm thinking to myself, okay, if they come down here and we're racing off pit road and we take 4 and they take 4, they're probably going to beat us. I mean, because they're that fast. And so, and he said, looking at their pit stop time afterwards, they probably would have beat us. So then you're on the same tires as Chastain and you just let him restart ahead of you. So it made his decision easier because he thought, okay, well, we'll take 2 and maybe some others will take 2, which Blaney did and Christopher Bell did. So, look, Blaney finished 3rd, so that was the right call for him. I think Chastain, I mean, he came in behind Truex there. So if he takes 2, he's going to be in the same situation pretty much. I mean, taking 4 for him was the right call. So I think all the top 3 finishers ended up making the right call. It just didn't work out. I mean, they were sort of that was, I can't fault any of their strategy, but yeah, I mean, I tell you what, Truex and James Small collectively needed a win together, a win to believe in each other, all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, that's a big momentum changer for that team.
You mentioned like how you wondered if this was not going to work out for him, and it's fair because right or wrong, like it seems like every strategy they call when it comes down to the end of race has been the wrong one, or not even sometimes their fault. It just happens, right? But everything is working against them. It felt like they've always had fast cars. They've been in contention. They're doing the things right, but something would happen, and whether it was a pit call, taking no tires or 2 tires or 4 tires, and so it's when you have these things happen over and over again, like you kind of lose the benefit of the doubt. And that's where this team is at. And to your point about them needing wing, like hell yeah, like they needed it bad. Like you can tell, like this was a team that just felt snake bit, and like they couldn't stay out of their own way sometimes. They sit there and tell you like the back and forth they have on the radio is like it's not abnormal for them, and it's not to some degree, but it had a different tenor to it the last few weeks, right? Like a team that like, listen, we need a win. We haven't won in a long time. We need a points win, and it's not happening. And I feel like Truex didn't say this, and he's never going to throw people under the bus, but you almost feel like he's doing everything he can, right? Like he's as a driver, if you were going to make a list out of things that were wrong with this team or that needed correction, he's not at the top, near the top of the list. Like he's doing his job largely, and I think James is a really, really good crew chief. But some of the calls he has made have worked against this team, and that just kind of builds up over a while.
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, there's various types of driver crew chief relationships, right? But I will say, I mean, we're used to sort of hearing when people are screaming at each other on the radio or something, we're like, oh, that's not going very well. But on the flip side of that, if you can ever get to a point where you're that comfortable with somebody, where neither person takes offense to that or has thick enough skin, right? It's hard to do. Like, I mean, if you and I were at the racetrack and you did something, I screamed at you like, shut the F up or something like that.
You do.
Come on.
You don't say shut the F up, but you have unloaded on me a few times. Like we do have that relationship, by the way. You look at that smile. That smile tells it right there. I can start giving examples if you want, but I'm not going to do that. You do that. I
don't think we have. I mean, if you yelled at me, I would be quite.
I don't yell at you. I don't yell at you. I just like, okay, cool. Let it go. Let it go. No big deal.
Okay. Well, I guess my point is, you have to have. I mean, I feel like we do have a good coworker relationship, so that would play into my argument. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I don't feel like. I mean, I don't think I have that kind of. No, you're not. You think we yell at each other like Truex?
No. We do not yell at each other. No, we do not yell at each other. No.
You think I yell at you like James Small was screaming at Truex?
There have been some examples.
I don't agree with this, but I also don't want to press it enough that you bring examples because I don't know what those are, and I'm nervous about that because I have no idea what you're talking about. So anyway, I'll just let that go. But listen, I think we had predicted clearly that, this was going to be, Truex was going to be in the playoffs. We felt that way. So this is not a surprise winner by any stretch of the imagination. However, another surprise to me was I thought this was going to be a Hendrick day, another Hendrick day.
Same.
This turned out to be a Joe Gibbs day. And in fact, if Ty Gibbs' pit crew hadn't, had got his fuel tank full, he would have had an easy top 10.
How
If
about
you
Denny
look at
Hamlin?
Denny Hamlin's pit crew cost him, that cost him all day, and he still finished fifth. Obviously, Truex wins. Bell was up there, played strategy at the end, but he was running top 10 all day. Ultimately, Reddick had a pretty good day, and even Bubba at the end there gets back on the lead lap. So you had all six Toyotas were in the top 13. And I think four of the top 7 were Toyotas as well. So, considering Gibbs struggles, relatively, Toyota compared to what we thought at the beginning of the year when we were talking Chevy. And, Byron talking last week about how this is a track where this is where the strength is going to come out. This is where you're going to start to see who has what. Yeah. If that is the case, this was a big day for Toyota because, look, I mean, they had all their cars clicking today. And where I think Hendrick, I mean, look, Byron, he had a good run, but he faded at times. The middle part of that, he dropped backwards.
Yeah, he was bad. In the middle part of the race, he was bad.
Yeah. And then Larson, you don't know. I mean, Larson could have won this race, and he
was moving. He had a fast car, it looked like, and
so we can't really count that one. But then, Josh Berry finishes 10th and Elliott 11th. I thought Elliott was going to be top 3 easy today.
I thought Elliott had a really good chance to win. I thought he and Larson were the two. Larson, and Byron were going to. I won't say Hendrick 1, 2, 3, but I thought they were all going to be in the mix today. So I was very surprised that the 9 was. I mean, I don't want to say a non-factor because he still finished 11th, which is a good day. But
did he ever even really crack higher than 10th all day or something?
Yeah, he was kind of a non-factor. I mean,
I
guess that says a lot about them that they finished 11th and they were invisible, but still.
Yeah, but I just thought, I mean, Elliott's good. He won the last race there. I just thought this was a track where Elliott could really go, and maybe this is, he can get that win that he needs. So that was that was surprising to me. I don't really know. I mean, because ultimately Larson had a faster car. So you can say Elliott was the 4th fastest Hendrick car today, which again, it's like, what, why? I don't, what happened there? That was weird. It was just weird. But yeah, I mean, certainly if you're looking, if you are going to take the leap that, hey, this is a race that features strength, which again, so you look at the last 3 regular season champions, right? And this is what I had looked up and didn't realize at the time for last week's top 5 column on The Athletic. So last year, Elliott wins this race and he wins the regular season championship. The year before, Larson dominated the race, ends up finishing 2nd when he gets beat by Bowman off pit road. But he still led the most laps and all that stuff. And he ends up winning the regular season championship. And then the year before it was a doubleheader because of COVID. But the second race of that doubleheader, Harvick won, and Harvick won the regular season championship. So, this has been a race that features strength. And Ross Chastain was the one that looked like, he was maybe going to win this race aside from Truex. And he also, now Ross takes over the points lead. So maybe there's something there. Ross, we haven't necessarily thought, well, Trackhouse is as strong as they were last year, but this was a pretty good showing from them today.
What Ross is doing really well, because it's weird, because you look at his finishes and they're all over the board, right? He finishes really well one week, and then the next week he's down. What he does really well, and I think people lose sight of this, is when you just look at the finishes, is he is getting stage points nearly, every single stage, and he's winning stages, and that covers up a lot of ground. And while he doesn't have the same number of top 5s and top 10s as other guys, and his average finishes are a little off, he's getting those stage points, and that's why he's the points leader right now. And he's running really, really well. He's just not finishing races. And so you would like to see more consistency out of him, where they close out races better, though. Some of that is just luck. I mean, it's just it's whatever it is, whether it's Denny Hamlin incident at Phoenix, or it's a super speedway, just things happen, and it is what it is. But they are right there in the mix. But he still, I would like to see them win, and he hasn't won now in a year. And I still think, while you can be in the contention, you can do all of these things, you have to go out there and win races to really be, in my mind, a serious title contender. And that's why today, like Martin Truex Jr. showed me like, hey, listen, I've been waiting for this. Like, I know you guys ran great last year. I know you finished the regular season fourth in points, and you guys had, I think they led this year. They were second in stage wins last year behind Blaney. Like they had a great season. They just didn't make the playoff. Like I know I just need to see you can win to really reinforce it. And it's like I kind of feel that way right now, but Denny Hamlin, that 11 team, like they're running really, really well. I mean, they could probably have 2, 3 wins. They probably should have 2, 3 wins. But I haven't seen them win a race now in almost a year, going back to the Coca-Cola 600. And things keep happening, whether it's just bad luck or it's things that they can control. And it's like, I just need to see something out of that team to really have the confidence in them that they're going to do that. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with Chastain as well. And that's why I believe in Truex now. And like, I'm kind of waiting for Blaney on that and that level too.
So obviously, Chastain is going to be most remembered from this race for the incident where it was in stage one and he's, he goes down to the corner and I don't know if he just miscalculated the speed that Brendan Poole had in front of him. Brendan Poole was racing for position. And, he just wiped out Brendan Poole right into Larson's path, took out Larson, which again, Larson had one of the fastest cars. And, obviously, look, he apologizes, says all the right things. And, oh boy, I really didn't mean to do that. And afterwards says, hey, I'm going to try to go to their shop and make it right. And all this stuff. But like, dang, I think the problem is with people that, this happens a lot, right? Now, go back to Richmond and we were poking fun at like the thanks Ross thing, right? Because it was getting to the point where everybody was blaming him for everything and not everything was his fault. But now there's been a couple incidents just in the last couple of weeks where you're like, oh yeah.
Well, the one last week was not his fault. Like,
okay.
I mean, I feel like people are harping on him too much for the Talladega one. We talked about that. There's no need into it, but I agree with you. I mean, there's no denying like this was his fault, 100%.
Yeah. So where do you go from there? Where do you if you're Ross Chastain, people are getting tired of hearing him say, oh, I didn't mean to do that. You only kind of get so many, I mean, maybe he's past that point already, but you have to, I mean, I guess I'm tempted to say, well, you can't win a championship if you keep pissing everybody off, but he almost won a championship last year after. Yeah. I mean, if nobody does anything, but then again, Larson, I mean, now it didn't have an impact on the race because the caution came out. But Larson tried to get in his way 40 laps down or whatever he was, and slow him up enough. And seemed to have no bones about doing that. Just like Elliott did with Harvick at Bristol a couple years ago. I'm sure you remember that, Jordan.
I don't remember what happened that race.
Yeah. So, there'll be things like that. Nobody seems to want to like put him in the wall or fight him afterwards. But, at the same time, like it just kind of like another notch in the belt. How do you move on?
Here's what I think. Like he is to blame. He is like, overly aggressive. He should be better about this. But at the end of the day, I think we've already passed this point of like he is what he is. And why does he need to change? Like I've kind of just resigned myself, like it's working for him. It's working really, really well for him. Like he's running up front on a weekly basis. He's winning stages. He's leading laps. He's leading the point standings. He almost won the championship a year ago. Like you could make a case that if Ryan Blaney wasn't teammates with Logano may not win that championship because Blaney could have passed Logano and then all bets were off between Chastain and Logano. Like it is working for him. And yeah, you're going to have moments like today where Larson held him up and you deal with it. But he still finished second. It wasn't like Larson put him in the wall or anything like that. And the way things are kind of at right now with this, what is acceptable payback and what is not, and how do you handle this? Like, I would imagine guys are going to be a little leery of intentionally putting somebody into a wall because we saw what happened to Denny Hamlin this year. So, like, if I'm Ross, this is working for me. I fought and scratched my entire life to get to this opportunity to be with a winning team, and I'm doing it. And if people are upset with how I race, then so be it. That doesn't mean you go out there and intentionally crash everybody left and right, and you don't become the second coming of Dale Earnhardt. But like, do what's working for you. And he should have actually. He needed to be better today. Like, there is no need at all to wreck a Rick Ware racing car. Like you're going to pass them. You're going to blow by them. Say what you will about those cars or whatever. They are like those drivers are considerate. Like they're not going to hold you up. They're going to get out of the way. And Brendan Poole's not going to do anything that's going to screw you up, right? Like pick and choose your spots better, but this is working for him. You don't have to like become different. Like, and if
Yeah,
everyone
but I
doesn't
don't
like
think he
that,
wants to.
I'm not
I don't
saying
think
he
he
does,
wants
he
to be
does
in this
either.
position. I don't, you know, he
I
doesn't
don't
want to
think he
wreck
does
people
either.
like that. Well, you're
No,
saying
I
it's
don't think
working for him. Why change?
it is working for him, but don't sit there and say like beat yourself up about it. Like don't try to be something you're not. If you're an aggressive driver, be an aggressive driver. Own it, you know, like and I mean and that's not his personality. Like Ross is a very nice guy. We mean all of those things. That's not who he is off the racetrack. But if that's who you are on the racetrack, it's worked well for Logano. It works very well for Logano over the years. Like he has said, like I am an a-hole when I put on, you know, when
Yeah,
that
but
helmet comes.
Logano's not going in the corner and just wrecking people. I mean, again, not that Chastain meant to, but I also think these are professional race car drivers, and at the highest level, you know, he's better than that.
I don't
So,
disagree. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. Like, these mistakes shouldn't happen. And
so which one is it? You're either saying, you look, you're super aggressive, you're just gonna do whatever it takes, own it, or well, you know, you really gotta.
you can be aggressive, but like this today was preventable. This was preventable. Like, you don't have to get into the 15 car like that. That's silly. But to sit there and try to be a different driver altogether and scale back and lose your aggressive, you can still have that edge. I think you need to pick your spots a little bit better. But you
That's
know,
fair.
and when, like I said, you know, racing a Rick Ware racing car, you don't need to put them in the wall. That does no good. But be an aggressive driver and go for it. And it's, you know, don't try to be something you're not.
Yeah, I feel bad for Brendan Poole as well, just in
Sure.
the sense that he was getting an opportunity to be in a cup car, which hadn't happened. I mean, I think this is his first time in a next gen at all, right? Today.
Yeah, 2020 was his last start. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, here's a guy who's trying to just get in there and do his job and
Sure.
complete all the laps, and he comes up with a torn up race car. It's not the impression you want to leave. It wasn't his fault, obviously, but
But
very
yeah,
unfortunate
sucks.
there. Did you have any problem with how Larson handled that? You know, we've heard all these things about race manipulation recently, and you know, obviously Elliott was not ever penalized for the Bristol thing, which I didn't think I think that was fair game. I mean, he felt he got wronged by Harvick, and so he decided to get in Harvick's way and allow his teammate to win. Um, you know, he didn't have contact at that time at that Bristol race. I thought that was fine, but maybe NASCAR views things differently. Now, I don't know if you saw Bob's video after the race where he asked Larson, basically, was that intentional? And of course, Larson, in the new era that we're in, cannot say, right? So he just
Yeah,
says, Larson just says, well, you can take it for what it's worth or whatever,
sure.
was his answer. And then just quickly moved on. But I don't know. Does it bother you what Larson did?
Not in the least bit. And you know, if you'd have made contact with him and spun him out, I don't know. I mean, it would have been hard to say in that moment, but what he did is fine. Like that is that is a way to pay someone back without turning this into a demo derby thing. I'm okay with that. You know, you want to slow somebody up, you want to be hard to pass, make their life difficult. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Now, start swerving into people and crashing each other intentionally, you know, that's a different conversation. Maybe I am fine with this. To me, this is like the first level of retaliation, and I am perfectly fine with this.
Well, I can't see NASCAR doing anything because last week we were wondering, you know, Corey LaJoy said on his podcast and Sirius, you know, hey, I tried reckoning Kyle Busch intentionally at Martinsville and blah, blah, blah. And that came to light. I guess NASCAR hadn't heard it originally, right? And then it came to light and NASCAR still decided not to penalize. So, which is the opposite of how they treated the Denny situation. So maybe it's turning out that now a new precedent is set again. And now maybe we can see drivers get back to saying why they really did something, and they just wanted to get the Denny penalty out of the way just to make an example out of him. I can't really keep track of what's going on because it's changing all the time. But
Do you think NASCAR needs to wait? So they usually put out the penalties like Tuesday, late Tuesday afternoon, sometimes Wednesday. They should wait to put out the penalties until like Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, and they have like one designated official that goes through and like listens to all the podcasts. Like,
God, can you imagine if we're ever in that? I mean, oh, sorry. Yeah, the penalty report's not out yet because we're waiting on a couple more drivers' podcasts to drop, and we need to make sure nobody's going to say anything. Like,
Oh,
Ugh.
man, it's gonna be out Thursday. Like Corey's comes out what, Wednesday? Yeah, Denny's comes out Monday. Like, and whoever you don't know who's gonna be on the download this week, so maybe you got to wait until
It's
that's
like
out.
all the drivers start delaying their podcast till after the penalty reports. All right, penalty
They're all
reports
gonna
out.
get dumped out on Saturday morning. The
Yeah.
racetrack.
Hey, our podcast comes out on Friday. Oh, why'd you change? No reason. No reason.
Scheduling issues.
Yeah. Hey, that'd be great for the teardown, Jordan. We'd have the whole week of just free whatever. Free reign without any podcast
NASCAR
dropping. No
NASCAR can't
competitors.
penalize us, though they can call people into the hauler though. So I mean, for
Have you
podcasts,
been
so,
called into the hauler?
no, but we know, like, I mean, DBC has though. So
Well, they have a NASCAR license.
yeah, well,
Yeah. I don't think they're gonna call us the hauler. Not yet anyway. What could we do? What could we possibly
I don't
say
know.
on here?
Have you heard some of your rants?
I mean, if we've made it this far. Um,
Maybe we
so
need to do something though for our street cred.
we're good, Jordan. We're good. Ryan Blaney did have a chance to win and snap his own long winless streak today. He restarted on the front row. I mean, he had a great restart, but I wasn't like, oh, Blaney's gonna beat Truex. I mean, it just felt like Truex and Chastain were faster all day. I mean, look, Blaney had a really great race. I think Team Penske made a gain here, at least on his car, because on Logano's car, holy cow, they were like completely opposite direction out to lunch on that one. Also, Austin Cindric finished 4 laps down. Logano was just an absolute. They were cording tires. They were having just terrible problems. He couldn't even make it to the end of the stage one time. He had to pit early. He was having a miserable day, but they got the setup right on Blaney's car. If they were trying different setups there at Penske, and that one worked out. So, Blaney needed a clean day like that, but he was asked afterwards, like, is this the start of some momentum, for your team or whatever? And he's basically like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, kind of thing, like, oh, we'll have to see about that. He's like, I think Truex and, was sort of in the same situation, right? Like, well, what's going to happen next? Like, we've run well all year. I mean, those two were kind of linked last year, right? Being in similar situations. Now Truex has got that win. I'm sure it's going to be even tougher for Blaney because he's just every week sitting there going, man, when's my turn,
Sure. But you look at it though, and you can, he can kind of scoff at the momentum or whatever, but you look at it the last 3 weeks, he's finished second at seventh at Martinsville, second at Dega, third at Dover. Like that's really good. Those are 3 very diverse tracks. You're running well, like, and you're going to a race at Kansas where he historically is among the guys in the mix there. Runs very, very well at those places. Now, I don't know where Penske's at overall and Ford is kind of at, but I like this team because I felt like we were having this discussion, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago of like where they were going in the wrong direction. Like they had 3 straight finishes in the 20s. It just felt like things were off. And it's like, what's going on? I think he was like around 12th, 13th in points, something like that. He's up to 5th now in the standings. And it feels like this team is very much, it feels like they've kind of come out of that abyss and kind of maybe turned the corner a little bit. Now, again, Kansas is a different animal. And I'm curious to see where Penske cars are stacking up right now, but you've got to be encouraged by what you're seeing out of this. And this is good because they're finishing races well too now. It's not just, starting strong and getting stage points, that kind of thing, but now second week in a row, like they were in the mix for the win. And that's a really encouraging sign for a team that's, usually has a tendency to start strong and then kind of fade as it goes along.
I don't know if I'm buying the Penske thing yet. I'm pretty cautious about them. I feel like, I mean, I'm not seeing big gains come from out of their camp, just like with SHR really. But, you look at I'm looking at the top 16 finishers today. There was only 3 Fords in the top 16. You had Blaney in third, and then you had the 2 RFK cars, another sign of improvement for them. They finished 8th and 9th. None of the SHR cars finished in the top 16 today, from what I'm looking at, unless I'm missing
Harvick
one.
had a better day than he finished. I think
he kept having tire problems like twice or something.
Yeah, he ran well. So I'm curious, like a year ago at this race, this was kind of the nadar for Logano on the 22 team. Like they were horrible here, and they had a come to Jesus meeting, he and Paul Wolf, out of this race, and basically saying like we need to get better. Well, then the next week they go and they win at Darlington. So like, I'm curious to see what comes out of this and where this goes. But they're not, I mean, they overall consistency wise, Penske's just not been there. I mean, Blaney wasn't. Logano was running well at the beginning of the year, and then his teammates were kind of all over the board. Now he's struggling, and Blaney's coming in. Like, they have not been able to hit on all three of those cars running well at the same time, regardless of the track, like we're seeing out of JGR and like we've seen out of Hendrick.
Yeah, and again, like these next 2 weeks are going to tell us a lot,
Agreed.
especially if you
I would say the next
take what's that?
I would extend that even further, and I'd go through the 600, like, because you're going to have 2.5 mile racetracks at Kansas and Charlotte plus Darlington, and so I feel like
So this
point,
month, because now that
yeah.
Dover's rain out got it into May.
Good point. There you go. There we go.
The month of May for NASCAR is going to be
statement month.
Yeah, statement month. That's true. I mean, North Wilkesboro, it's going to be a fun little write-off. That'll be a very different race with all the tire wear there and the format and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, when you think about Dover, people talking about that showing strength. Kansas, Darlington, 600. Right there.
Let me go further with that too. Darlington is the first race in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas is in the playoffs as well. Like, those are two tracks where you go there and you run well, you've got confidence, at least saying, hey, we come back here in the fall, we've got something to build off of. So I think we're going to know a lot over the next month. I think we're already starting to see it a little bit in the stretch, with Truex kind of rising up and Kyle Larson kind of coming to the forefront, and William Byron, like, running well, leading laps every single week. Like, I think we're starting to really kind of identify who the players are.
Yeah. And, also, no offense to the Josh Berry thing, but I would have liked to see, had Bowman been healthy, if he's in that 48 car today, because Bowman's really good at Dover.
Absolutely.
Really good at Dover.
Former winner.
Could he have, I mean, I'm not saying, again, it's not a shot at Josh Berry, but Josh Berry doesn't have the experience. He's doing great in substitute duty, 2 top 10s in his substitute duty for 2 different cars. 3 top 10s? Oh,
3 top 10s overall. 3 top 10s on a sec. Yeah. And 2
different teams. And
2 different teams. One of those was a second place finish too. Like, he's doing what you want to see out of him. And, he's doing a great job. It's no doubt why there's teams that are interested in hiring him next year.
Well, I just feel like Bowman, with all his experience, though, would have been better than 10th today, and I would have been curious to see. And so maybe that changes the Hendrick Gibbs narrative too. But I guess as things stand right now, we're talking about these strength on strength type races coming up that are not fluky type events. So who has the edge, Gibbs or Hendrick right now?
I don't know. Can I tell you in a month? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I just, it depends on a lot of things. I mean, if Kyle Larson doesn't get swept up in an accident that he had nothing to do with, like, who knows, right? If Alex Bowman doesn't get hurt in a sprint car crash in races today, what would he been like? But I was impressed what I saw out of Byron. The middle part of that race, though, like, he just vanished. I was really impressed with Truex, where, they started kind of good and then they kind of were okay, and then they got better and better. And I was really impressed with Chastain. Like, so, I mean, there's a lot of takeaways from this about the narrative can be kind of whatever you want it to be. It can be, Joe Gibbs Racing is coming. Look at them. It can also be like, William Byron is still here. Kyle Larson's still in the mix. Like, they're not going anywhere. And Chastain.
And don't forget Chastain. Yeah, right.
And yeah, so, like, it feels like it's kind of, it can be whatever you want it to be. And I don't know. And we're gonna know why. I think we're gonna have a really good idea over here the next month.
Here's another one that's been sneaky. Tyler Reddick is up to he's still 6th in points. He's 6th in points. He had another top 10. They had a terrible start to the season. He's running pretty well. Now you're going to Kansas, which 2311 swept last year with 2 different drivers.
He's very fast there too, by the way.
Yep, that's a good track for him. So, by this time next week,
yep.
Yeah, we could be talking, Tyler Reddick, is he in the mix for this? What is this? So
and Darlington too is like a really good track for him too, because that's one of those tracks you run up high the line, and tire man, like, that is tailor made for him. Yeah, this month sets up really well for Reddick.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't get answers. We sort of are left after this Dover race with more questions, but not a bad thing though. Not a bad thing to feel like we still, because for a while there, we're starting to get a lot of a pattern, and it's still the pattern is the big teams, right? It's not the unpredictable season of last year, but I think that we're starting to starting to whittle things down and be like, all right, who's now really the good ones? And we'll definitely know more shortly on that. Corey LaJoie had another top 15, and his run was going to even be better than that. It looked like at times. Anybody else jump out to you in terms of good, bad? You expected more, expected less?
Really impressed with RFK Racing. Like, it wasn't like they came out there like a stellar day, just a quietly efficient day. Really kind of ran in the top 10 all day. The points as they stand now and have been for the last couple weeks, both Brad and Chris would be in the playoffs. Now, they're probably going to have to win a race to get it in the playoffs if you kind of look at where they're at, but they're doing what they can. Like, those cars, I mean, no one's going to tell you that those cars are amazingly fast, but they have made significant improvements, and those drivers are getting the most out of it. And it would be nice to see what Brad could have done today without the pit road penalty with the tire. But like, they're going out there, they're staying out of trouble, and they're maximizing their performance every week. Really, really impressed with where that organization is at. And so I think that deserves a kudos. Corey LaJoie again, like, and you mentioned Ty Gibbs, man, but like, he's been running well for a while now. He keeps gaining experience, and he's almost to the point of like, if he popped off a win at some point, like, I don't think anyone would be completely shocked, right? Like, I'm not saying it's there yet, but like,
That'd
he's
be pretty
getting to that point.
surprising, but
To an extent, but he's got speed and they're running well, and it's, this is impressive.
yeah, for a Cup Series rookie, and now I know he got some experience last year, but still a rookie. And really, I mean, you don't see rookies run this well typically. So
Not consistently.
yeah, I tell you what, though, after 11 races, would you have thought that Brad Keselowski would be ahead of Kyle Larson in points? Larson tumbled 6 spots today. He was 4th going into this race. Now he's 10th. And he's not one of the Hendrick drivers that had a points penalty. That's just Byron and Bowman.
Yeah.
So Larson's just had, I mean,
Bad luck.
he could be the points leader probably. I mean, based on how well he's running, but yeah, I mean, when you have situations like today where he's just running well, it looks like he's going to have a great day, just gets cleaned out while running his line.
Same thing happened last week too. Good run in the mix, in the top 5, gets caught up in an accident, out of his own deal, and then it's just like, it's been the theme of it. I'd like, that's a team like, maybe don't have consistency, but if you're talking about playoffs and big picture stuff, like, that's a team that could win any given week, and they're scary because of that.
Larson had some interesting comments this week, as did a few drivers, about the safety thing. It got a lot of attention last week, right after his wreck with Ryan Preece. And, I think it was pretty alarming to everybody to see the door bars fold up like that on the passenger side of the car. Now, obviously, the driver's side is more strengthened. And they have a steel plate in there. So that had he hit on the driver's side, like Kyle Busch was saying, that could have been bad, but at the same time, like, the driver's side is more reinforced. Mm-hmm. But still, it was, as Kyle Busch put it, it was like a brick going through butter, because the front end of Ryan Preece's car did not give very much in that. Like, it did not crumple, like, which was the problem with last year's rear ends. Now, I think we saw today, Ty Dillon backs into the wall, and at first you're like, uh-oh, that's going to be one of the hits that we're scared of now. But when they showed his car, the rear end of his car actually crumpled up pretty decent, I thought. I don't know, how hard the hit was for him. I don't think we got to hear from him today, but I thought that was encouraging to see the rear end crumple like that. Now NASCAR needs to try to figure out how to make the front end crumple a little bit more. And for an update, I did talk to NASCAR this week. We heard that they took Larson's car back, right? And then after they got Larson's car back, they asked SHR to bring Preece's car. So they got Preece's car too, to try to do an accident reconstruction. And they have a new system. Before they would have a system that would record the G load. They would have a system record the GPS. They'd have the high-speed camera in there, but they weren't all in one source. So it would take longer for them to get all that information, do their investigation. Well, now they have this new system in the cars this year that has all those things in one, so they can just pull all those things immediately. And it sounds like what they did was they got all that and they put it into like a CAD file. So they're recreating it both like physically to see how the cars match up, and they put the speed in, the angle, really trying to figure out what updates they need to do, because clearly on their part, it's not just us who look at those cars and go, oh, that doesn't seem good. NASCAR sounds like they're trying to figure out a way to improve that. Well, and I think that they already, once they redid the rear ends, it sounds like they already were looking at redoing the front ends or trying to go down that road. So sounds like there's going to have, more information at some point. The impact was at over 130 miles an hour, which, Chase Elliott comes out and says, well, valid concern, right? Like, well, what if it was higher speed? But at the same time, if you think about, like, the cars are going, say, 180 miles an hour, right? If they wreck, though, as soon as you start to wreck, you're starting to scrub off speed. So it is pretty unusual that you would have a higher speed wreck than the one we saw, really. I mean, because Priest was pretty much coming full speed. So, hopefully they'll be able to make some improvements. I know it's tough with this next gen car with the parts and pieces, but I think everybody looks at that wreck and goes, boy, that could have been a lot worse. Larson seemed a little bit even rattled by it in some of the comments we saw this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's all you can do is take what you take these incidents and try to investigate them and be better. And they're doing that. And that's what you want. And that Ryan Preece walked away from that crash last week uninjured. You look at the violent hit that he had and everything that he absorbed, like, I think we all kind of thought, like, let's see what he's like on Tuesday, Wednesday, right? And he was okay. And that's encouraging. Now, you can never ever get complacent. You always can do more, and you always have to be thorough and diligent. And to NASCAR's going back and investigating this, that's a good sign. And hopefully you can learn from this. And to your point, you need to make sure the cars are absorb, and the energy is going towards the car itself and not the driver.
Yeah. Now, obviously, safety, and we touched on this with Bowman being out, but I know we disagree on this. We've already written a piece where we disagree on the athletic, but even more stuff comes out with driver opinions and things. Jeff Andrews from Hendrick Motorsports talked this week about, hey, it's not great, but maybe we'll have to, if this keeps happening, we'll have to look at things. But I think mostly, as Chase Elliott said, it's a terrible coincidence that two drivers have gotten hurt with sort of extracurricular racing. That said, Jeff Andrews also said, look, we view these as different situations, the snowboarding thing and the racing a sprint car. And if we think that it's a driver's doing something that helps them inside the car, we don't want to take them away from that. So are you still feeling like bubble wrap and Bowman shouldn't have been racing that stuff and nobody should be racing other stuff and keep them, only in cup cars and things? Like, how are you feeling about it now at this point?
My opinion hasn't changed. Like,
I was giving you a chance to get out of this.
No, like, it doesn't. Like,
terrible opinion.
I'm not wishing ill will on Alex Bowman. Like, obviously, him getting hurt, and we want to see him back sooner rather than later. But if I keep reiterating the same thing. If I am a NASCAR team owner, I do not want to see my guys racing other stuff outside of NASCAR, especially in the sprint cars, which have a tendency to. We've seen drivers get hurt. Like, I'm sorry, like, there is no upside to that, and I understand the argument. I'm better. It makes me better. I get to go out and practice my craft and all of that stuff. Okay, sure, maybe. And I counter with this. Joe Gibbs last year told Christopher Bell, you're done. He had a bad crash at Texas, racing on dirt. You're done. You're only allowed to do, basically NASCAR stuff. And guess what? Christopher Bell, until today, was leading the point standings. He's having a great season. He's just fine. His ability is not being, stifled because he's not allowed to race dirt. Like, I just don't see the upside. If I'm a NASCAR team owner and everything I have invested in you, millions of dollars, a team built around you, and you're going to get hurt and you're going to have to pull you out of the race car and put a driver in. And you said yourself, Jeff, on this podcast, well, Josh Berry did a very fine job today, did a great job of filling in and finishing in the top 10. Alex Bowman, it was in that car. It is more than likely that car finishes better than it did. But Bowman was in that car today because he did something he didn't need to do. And you can't, he did. You tell me why he needed to do that. Because he wanted to do it.
He said that it helps make him better. It helps push him outside his comfort zone. It helps take more risks, which he has said on the 12 questions this year that's something that he's been trying to work on for his entire career, that he thinks has hurt him. Are you against Kyle Larson doing the Indy 500?
I would have reservations about it. Yeah.
He
Like
is doing the Indy 500 next year.
I understand that. And
So you're
I
against
just,
drivers doing the double. You are not in
I,
favor. If we go back and look at Jordan Bianchi's coverage of past drivers
well,
doing the
whoa, whoa,
double.
whoa. Well, first of all, opinions can change. So what I said then, I don't remember what I wrote then, but opinions can change. And my opinion on this is I don't remember what it was then, but today where I'm at now, I look at this and say it's unnecessary. Like there
Okay, so
goes
no drivers doing the double. No drivers. Oh, I guess Cup drivers definitely shouldn't do Xfinity Series racing, right? Or
if
truck
you're in a
racing.
NASCAR, if I am your team owner and you are in one of my cars, then I am paying you to do that, then that is fine because that's under my
But
umbrella.
wait, so should Cup drivers not do any more Xfinity races for worried of getting hurt? Because you can get hurt in NASCAR. Lane Perkins got hurt last week at Talladega. In fact, Alex Bowman last year had to miss races because he got hurt in a Cup car.
And that is his day job. And you're doing your job. You are doing your job, and that comes with risk. So why do you need to add to your heightened risk of already having a dangerous job where you potentially could get hurt and doing more extracurricular stuff outside of that? Doesn't make sense to me.
So okay, so you're on the record. No Cup drivers in any lower series.
That's not what I said. Anything outside NASCAR. I am. If you want to do it in NASCAR,
okay,
in a car that
how about
I own,
the Cars Tour, late model racing? Is that safe? Is that safe enough to do extracurricular?
I would be more apt to. I said this on DBC. I've said this elsewhere as well. Like I'm not trying to paint it. You can't paint this in like a broad brush. You have to pick and choose a little bit. If you want to run like a one-off occasionally, I'm okay with that. If you want to go run a late model race or a sprint car, maybe somewhere one-off, or you want to do the Cars Tour race, whatever. Okay, fine. But doing on a regular basis, going to run sprint cars on a regular basis, which are already dangerous enough, like I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I don't.
Marco Andretti in SRX last year snapped his wrist during the championship race and had to have surgery as he won the championship. You have a bunch of Cup drivers that are going to be in SRX this year. Brad Keselowski's running the full season. Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
You've seen Blaney run it. You've seen Elliott run it. Hamlin.
And I don't know if I was a team owner, and I guess Brad's his own boss, so he only has to answer to himself.
So, but are you against those drivers running SRX as well?
I think I would be okay with them maybe doing a one-off. I don't know if I'd be okay. I wouldn't be okay necessarily saying, "Hey, we're going to add 6 races onto your schedule and put you out there that much." You have to be. Again, I'm not trying to paint this with a broad brush. I think you just have to be more selective in how you do this.
So sprint cars, no. Indy cars, no. Xfinity Series, where somebody just got hurt last week, yes. Trucks, yes, where people get hurt. Those are okay. SRX, yes, and one-off.
One-off, late model. Again, you want to do a sprint car race, you want to go to Knoxville Nationals and a one-off, fine. But you running sprint cars on a regular basis, once, twice a week, throughout the spring and the summer leading up to the playoffs, like I don't see the benefit to that.
Obviously, I'm not in agreement with you on this once again, but I just wanted to see where you land on this because I just don't.
Why is NASCAR so different from other sports? Where other athletes in other sports, if you name the sport, they can't do extracurricular stuff. A football player can't go play in a football game on Wednesday because he wants to get reps and get better.
What football games are there on Wednesdays?
There are, really.
So you don't think NBA players ever play pickup basketball games in the summer?
Michael Jordan had it. Well, no, a lot of NBA players are not allowed to go play pickup basketball. A lot of places they have it written in their contract. MJ was one of the few that had it. You've heard of the For the Love of the Game,
but they do play pickup basketball in the summer.
Some do, some don't, and they have to. It's very structured, and some are not allowed to. And it depends on, and sometimes you depends on who you play with, where you play. There's all sorts of parameters, and like MJ had it in his contract. He was so upset with the Bulls, like I want to be able to play basketball when I ever want to. It was called the For Love of the Game clause, and they had it put in there because he wanted to play basketball when he wanted to. But there are guys who are not allowed to do things. You can't ride motorcycles. You can't jump out of airplanes. You can't do X, Y, Z. That because we need you on the field playing for us. Like our team is better when you suit up for us, not doing other things. And why is that so different in NASCAR?
Because
why is Formula One guys not running all sorts of other races? Why are IndyCar drivers largely they do occasional sports car races? That's about it. But if you can become such a better driver by doing all of this other stuff, then why are all these other drivers in Formula One and IndyCar not, have all
What
these extra?
other races could Formula One guys run? I'm sure they do go karting sometimes,
They go karting, but
but
I mean, I'm sure there's a race they could enter somewhere.
I think they're kind of busy traveling the world. But
They race 23 times a year. IndyCar, I mean, it's the same. Like you can make, I mean, put it this way, they're not big. They have 23 races. NASCAR's got 38. Like, I mean, it's, if you want to find a race somewhere, you can race. Like, so the argument that this makes me better, like, okay, maybe show me how. Give me something
I
tangible. Like
just
it's
totally disagree with you. I think these guys, like Tony Stewart, all these years, I mean, the more these guys are in race shape and are in situations of late race restarts and pressure and, making risky passes and getting outside their comfort zone to feel like, okay, like I'm comfortable with, improving their car control. That all helps. I mean, it does. You're practicing your craft. In the other sports you're mentioning, they have practice every day. The NFL players are going to practice every day. They are practicing on the field. The NASCAR drivers, they can run iRacing, but it's not the same. They can go to GoPro Motorplex. It's not the same. Now Trackhouse Racing Motorplex or whatever, they renamed it. I don't know if you saw that. Trackhouse Motorplex or whatever, the go-kart track in Mooresville. But this is a way, there's no more practice in NASCAR. This is a way to keep sharp. I think this is what you got to do. It's a terrible coincidence. Obviously, he didn't want to get hurt. It was his 30th birthday. You think he wanted to spend his 30th birthday with a broken back?
No one wants to get hurt. No one wants to break their back. I mean, come on, that's silly.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not like he was being reckless. He was
No, but he was participating in an activity that brings high risk. It heightens the risk.
Race car driving is risky.
So you
All
already
race
are
car
risking
driving.
enough. So then now you're adding on to something that's unnecessary.
Oh, man. All right. People are probably like tuning out at this point because they don't want to hear this. We've spent too much time on this, but I just can't believe your argument. So I'm just, and I know a lot of people agree with you, but I just wanted to get you on the record here for your crazy.
My record hasn't changed.
I guess I was thinking maybe you'd see the light, but no. All right. We should talk about Ryan Truex as well, because that was pretty inspiring. Here's a guy who, look, I mean, he was completely written off. His career was, if he had not pursued just, hey, like, can I even just get 6 races kind of thing, the last couple of years, and he just went away, everybody be like, oh, whatever happened to that guy? I mean, you see that a lot in NASCAR. People get opportunity. They don't live up to the hype or produce the way that people think they're going to.
You get gobbled up and spit out.
Yep. He stayed in it, and he put the pressure on himself to, like, hey, I got to go win. He's been doing this sort of a media tour about this, right? Like, he went on Stacking Pennies. He went on the 12 question stuff. I saw him on the FS1 pre-race show. I mean, he's been out there saying, like, yeah, I've got 2 races left. I've got 3 races left with Gibbs to prove myself. And he went out there, gets his first career win, completely dominates at his home track to boot. It's a great story. And I think you could see how popular the win was for everybody that respected his grind. He started in 2010 and is finally a NASCAR National Series winner. So it's a cool story. We'll see where it goes from here, but it's a cool story.
It's a really cool story. And people forget, like, there was a time that he was considered kind of one of NASCAR's top prospects, right? He won, back-to-back Canon E-Series at a time when that series was pretty stacked, by the way, too. And he was considered like he's going to be the next big star in NASCAR. And, he's kind of one of those guys, too, that maybe if the MWR cheating stuff doesn't unfold, maybe there's a better opportunity for them. But he kind of got washed out of that because I believe he was part of the MWR team then, and Martin was there, and there's a pathway there, and then he's kind of bouncing around, and he took a Cup Series ride with BK Racing, which is never a good idea. Like, it's really hard to come out of that situation better than you are. And I think he had a concussion. Didn't he lose his ride because he had a concussion or something? I mean, there was like is there something that happened there, and like it just didn't work. Yeah, I think he got hurt at Michigan, didn't he? Like he had a whatever. And so, and it just, then he started bouncing around, and he was ending up in opportunities where it's really hard to do something. Or even if you're running well, the results don't always show it because you're kind of got a ceiling on you, a glass ceiling. And he finally got this opportunity with JGR last year. And he didn't really, it's fair to say, like he didn't really overly impress, and probably trying too hard because you only get 6 races. You're trying to, show the world, and what happens often is you try to do too much, you step out of your comfort zone, you overstep, and you end up making mistakes. And you go back a couple weeks ago at Martinsville, he was wrapped up in a couple things, and he was kind of pushing, and people were kind of criticizing him a little bit. And this was a really good, he needed this. He needed this for a lot of reasons, and it's a great story. Good for him, and hopefully this can kind of give him a second lease on his NASCAR career that has kind of been, it just kind of been, it felt like it was dying. And we'll see what
Yeah.
happens out of this. And he's in a good spot with JGR. They like him. Toyota likes him. It doesn't hurt that your brother's still there. Like this seems like a good opportunity for him to maybe do something.
So listen, I think that, it sounded like Joe Gibbs at least wants to do more with him this year. You don't know what's going to happen, whether he's going to get a full-time ride, but, it sounds like Gibbs is at least open to trying to get him in more Xfinity races and extending his 6 as they work toward maybe something full-time next year if they can get the sponsorship. So we'll see what happens there. We also need to see what happens with the good race poll.
I say something really quick about Truex. I was right.
Yes.
Truex in 2013 had a concussion at Michigan for BK Racing, and then that deal went sideways shortly thereafter.
Okay, I didn't remember that at all.
Yeah, it happened in practice.
So the good race poll. Did you win again last week? I don't even remember.
I thought you did actually.
Oh, did I? I can't remember.
I thought you won.
Big Joe Wall, 72. His tweets are protected now, like mine are. So I can't see his.
Oh,
his
hang on,
scoring.
I follow him.
You follow him? Okay.
Yeah,
see,
hang on.
I
Let me
should
see
probably
if I
follow him, but yeah.
Way to go. Why don't you follow Joe?
I follow exactly 300 people. Always.
Really? How do you decide on who to follow?
If I follow somebody new, somebody's got to go.
Why am I logged out of my account? That's weird.
Oh, this has been a big Twitter thing recently. Have you heard about this?
No. What happened? What?
It's logging people out, and then when you try to log back in and like authenticate yourself or whatever, it won't let you back in.
Oh, I got back in, so that's
some
good.
sort of a new Twitter bug. So be careful with that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. There's lots of new bugs.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
But a lot of people told me after last week that they weren't even necessarily aware of the Rosie thing, but now they see Rosie all the time since we talked about it. So
you won last week.
Oh, I won. Okay.
You won.
All right. So that means I got to go first.
Yep.
Okay. So last year's Dover race, I pulled this up because I thought you would harass me if I didn't have the information and say that I didn't come prepared. So
tends to happen.
The Dover race last year, which I thought was pretty good, was 80.2. And that was also a Monday race. So, you probably have the same amount of people who go, well, I didn't get to watch it, or I'm mad at, it was this. So, I think that it'll be relatively close to that. I thought it was a good race. I just don't know if other people feel the same way. Man, this is tough. I don't know if it's going to get to 80. You know what? I'll just say 80 on the nose. I thought it was good. I thought it was a fine race. You had comers and goers, especially by Dover standards, which has been super boring at times. I didn't think it was a complete track position race. You saw some people be able to pass. Was it the best Dover race ever? No, but I thought it was good. So, I'll say 80. Yeah.
Can we lop off 100 miles of Dover, by the way?
I mean, it was a 3.5-hour race for 400 miles.
Other mile racetracks, Phoenix and New Hampshire, both about three. Phoenix is 317, New Hampshire's 300.
Yeah, no, I think there's a great argument for it. I don't think it needs to be that long, but I don't know. Every time you talk about shortening races, people go, you guys just don't want to work that long or whatever.
That's ridiculous.
I'm just telling you, that's what people,
I know. I've heard it. It's just, that's ridiculous. Like, it's every sport, like, is looking at trying to make sure, like, your games don't go too long. Like, baseball just went through this whole thing. Like, so it's not about, it's about entertainment. It's about making sure your viewing audience is entertained for the duration. They get enough of that. So I get it, but I don't know. You lob 100 miles off of this. This race is probably what, 245?
Yeah, yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah, a
And
little
I
under
think
3 hours.
that's,
So yeah.
yeah, which is right around the window. 3 hours is kind of the
Yeah.
window. So like,
You watch a
I don't
2
know.
hour and 45-minute race, you're not being like, man, I wish there was more. I
And I
think.
would say this, it's better to leave your audience wanting more than over serving them and saying, oh man, that's way too much for me. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah. My number, I'm gonna go 75%. This doesn't feel like an 80 race. I thought it was fine. It was perfectly good for Dover, perfectly acceptable race, but I'm gonna go 75 just because I don't know. Just seems 80 seems too high.
Yeah. I mean, if you did have a shorter race on a Sunday, especially now, you know, Monday is different because people are working, but on a Sunday, people want to enjoy their weekends. People want to get outside, take a hike.
Especially in the
Um,
summer.
I mean, I guess you don't like to take a hike,
No,
but
no, I don't do outdoor stuff. I mean, I don't do like there are bears and there are snakes and there are wild animals. I do not deal with.
now that this is weird because our friend Zach Albert from NASCAR.com, he's a very avid hiker.
Yep.
And my understanding is that he actually asked you
Multiple
to go
times.
on multiple times to go on a hike
Multiple
with
times.
him.
Yes.
Um, and you are refusing this, absolutely refusing this.
I do not rough it. I am not. I know you're gonna be shocked by this. I do not do hikes. I do not do camping. I do not sleeping in the woods. Like my idea of roughing it is a hotel without room service. Like I am just not. I am very bougie, and I am not gonna go on a hike. And I love Zach. Like Zach goes to these great places. He showed me photos of snakes. I don't do snakes. The only snakes I want are the ones on my shoes. Like I don't do any of that stuff. I don't want to go on a camping somewhere and like wake up next to a bear. I'm good.
Okay,
Why is that? Why? Like
because
that's like my
to
parents are
get
the same
outside,
way.
there's more that I don't know if you know this. There's more to life than like just our work and our jobs and
Yeah, you
stuff.
can sit outside and work. Like you can don't have you.
No,
There's other ways of.
take out the work. Outside doesn't mean work. No work. You could actually not work. You could
No,
actually take a break and have like balance in your life and say, you know what? I've worked a lot this week. I've broken 50 stories.
I've
I'm going to
broken
go.
anything.
What?
I haven't broken anything, and it's driving me crazy.
Okay. This week, today, you break stories all the time. You're allowed to go take a few hours and go for a hike. You don't even have
You
kids.
know the worst thing about this whole thing is that Zach, there is no cell phone reception. Like I cannot go multiple
That's the
hours
worst
without.
thing. That's a
It's
blessing.
oh my god, no. It's like where was I the other day? I forgot where I was, and I walked in somewhere and I didn't have. I was at a movie. I went to a movie, and I didn't have cell phone reception. I'm trying to write on my. I'm writing on my phone. I was writing a story for the Athletic on my phone, and I didn't have cell phone reception. So I actually walked down to the desk and I said, "Hey, I need." It was a private internet. I said, "I need to hook up to your internet so I can work on my phone." And then I can get text messages and everything else too, because I could not sit in that theater and not have cell phone reception. I was going to go bonkers.
I really hope you were at that movie by yourself. I really do. Were you at the movie
So
by yourself? I hope so. Because
I
if
was with
somebody went
friends.
to a movie with me and they were like decided to work on their phone or whatever during the movie with the screen lit up and all this crap,
I dimmed the screen way down, so it's like it's super dark. And I sit way in the back, so
why
there's
did
no
you
one
even bother
behind me.
going to the movie? Why'd you
Because I
bother
wanted to
going to
see
the
the
movie if you're going to
because I
be
wanted to see the
working?
movie. I saw the movie.
You
It was a
didn't
great
see
movie.
it.
I did see the movie. I can tell you everything happened. It was great. I can multitask like
You left the movie to go ask if you could get the
for
private
like 2
Wi-Fi.
minutes, and it was during the preview, so I didn't miss anything for the movie. Like I literally got in there. I looked at my phone to sit down and start working on my phone, and I'm like, this is not going to work. I don't have a signal. I am going to lose it. And this was a day something was going on penalty wise. It was recently. So there was something floating out there that there
So why don't
was
you just not go to a movie on the penalty days and then, then you could actually enjoy it.
because that doesn't work for like. Do you think our boss is like, hey, I know there might be some big news going on. I'm just
Oh,
gonna
I'm
sit
saying
this.
don't go on the penalty days. Go on it like a
There is no
Friday.
like that was literally like the only time like that was the only possible time to go.
Okay.
There wasn't no time. I've been on the road. I went to 4 straight races. Like I don't have Fridays to go to movies.
I'm just at a
Fridays
loss
are
here.
travel days.
I wish that everybody, all our listeners and I could get together and do an intervention, a work intervention on you. I just, think
No, like
this is,
like
you've got to get out. You've got to touch grass, as the kids say, touch grass, like
Mhm.
have some reality disconnect. Okay. Like go for a hike with Zach.
no,
Like,
God, no. Love Zach. I will go drink beer with Zach. I do drink beer with Zach. I'm not going on a hike with Zach. There's
let me
no
ask you
chance.
this. Which do you dislike more? The outdoors or children or Christmas?
Oh my God.
Give us your power
Probably
rankings.
no outdoors, because then there's all sorts of factors. There's the wild animals. There's the middle of being in nowhere. There's
So
the no
you
cell phone
dislike
reception.
being outdoors worse than you dislike
I
children and
just no,
Christmas.
no. See, it's not outdoors. I like being outdoors. Like I like to go sit outdoors and like
Okay,
have a drink
hiking.
somewhere.
You would
Yeah, I don't
rather
do hiking. Yeah,
you would
no,
rather
no hike.
spend time with children on Christmas than go for a nice hike by yourself.
Yes,
Oh,
going a hiking just sounds miserable. Like again, if I don't have cell phone reception, I lose my absolute mind if I do not have a cell phone reception. Like I heard, you told me this all the time. I am one of those people. I incessantly check my cell phone, incessantly. You've gotten on me about it before.
I, I'm I'm just sort of at a loss here. I think we should just move on. There was a really good IndyCar race. I don't know if you got to watch that.
I did. It was good.
Happened to be it worked out really well for them that they didn't have to go head to head with NASCAR, and I think it probably got some extra eyeballs on them. I'll be curious to see the ratings. Man, they had some really good, that the battle between yet another battle, I guess, between McLaughlin and Grosjean was really good, really entertaining. I thought the whole race was I got what I wanted from it. You know what I mean? And I think that IndyCar continues to be a series that just, it's kind of under the radar. It's an F1 shadow. It's a NASCAR shadow.
Better
But
racing than Formula One. Much
oh,
better racing than Formula One.
easily.
Not even
Oh my God,
close.
this F1
More.
race this weekend. Holy
I would.
crap.
I would understand better racing, more competitive. It's got. I would. I don't know if it's got. It's in terms of personalities.
Great personalities.
It's got
Great
great. It's
personalities.
got great personality. I don't know if it has more or less. It's on the same level personality wise as Formula One. Like it checks all of the boxes. Like I don't. I said it before. Like there are so many things to like about IndyCar racing. I love the schedule. I love the race. They go to a lot of cool places, a lot of cool cities. Like I don't understand why it doesn't have more success than it does. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this TV show they have will help them. I don't know. I didn't get to watch the first episode yet, but everybody wants to bank on their various TV shows that they have now. But it seems like people thought it was decent. Obviously, it seems like they're improving their social media presence, so that will be helpful. But yeah, it's just like I think the biggest thing is if you can get new eyeballs on your races and you put on a good race like they had at Barber, people are going to be like, oh, dang,
But
that was pretty good. I didn't have exposure to this. And that's what makes people watch, right?
I agree, but here's my point though. Like they've had good races for a long time. Like you go back to Indy 500, which is one of that race that everybody watch. Like it's like the Kentucky Derby, everybody Masters. Even if you're not a race fan, you tune in. You go back to Rossi versus Pagenaud in that battle in 2020, right? That was, or I'm sorry, 2019. That was as good as it can get. Like if you're a casual fan, like I don't know how you could watch that and be like, whoa, this is what this is. Like I got to watch this. The problem is there hasn't been any carryover. So like the racing's been great. They've had great racing for years, and it's just I don't know the end. Like you go back to the 20, how many Indy 500s in a row were like epic, right? You had 2012 with Hunter Ray, 2013 with Kanaan. I think you had 83 some lead changes in that race or whatever it was. Like you get all of these races and like that's the race where you build off of, and they just haven't been able to do it. Halio winning 4 Indy 500s in a row, and he's got the personality and the name brand, and it still is. I like do I. It's not the. I don't know what the answer is. I don't, because they're doing it. They figured out the hard part, which is to get good competitive racing. They just haven't been able to figure out the other part of it.
Yeah, no, I know. I think they a lot of them wonder the same reason why, like the same thing. Why aren't more people paying attention? But it's got to start somewhere. So I think
Yeah.
you have more good races and people will come. F1, I mean, gosh, that was a terrible race. That really sucked.
It's a bad
But
weekend all around for them.
yeah, no. The one good thing
Baku's supposed
was,
to be special, and like it's a fun race, kind of goofy, and like
yeah,
none of that. It was just it was dull.
the only thing they really have going for them right now is that Checo is trying to stay with Max, and at least there's somewhat of a title fight at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's between two teammates. I mean, the Red Bull cars were like what 19 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc for third place. So they're clearly, you know, in a world by themselves, and probably Max is going to end up blowing Checo out of the water and eventually. But Checo's keeping it close, as he pointed out. You know, if he hadn't had his problems in Australia, he'd be leading the points. He gained a bunch of points this weekend. You know, the sprint race, the main event. So
what'd you think
of the sprint race?
Yeah, like I don't know.
I didn't mind the sprint race format not being, you know, last year I felt like when the sprint race would decide the lineup for the Sunday race, it was just sort of like, I don't know, like it almost ruined qualifying in a way, because any good story in qualifying was immediately going to get shuffled down in the opening laps of the sprint race. And then by the time you get to the sprint race, you know, the cream had risen to the top, and you know, you're like, oh well, now all the best drivers are in the front anyway. So at least it had its own separate thing. You know, 2 qualifying sessions, I don't know if you need that, but I also think it's better than practice. It's better than just a practice session. You don't need 3 practice sessions a weekend. I mean, if you're gonna say, would you rather have a standalone short race on a Saturday or a practice? I'd say, well, yeah, I'd rather watch a standalone short race. So that was fine. You didn't like it? Why didn't you like it?
No, it's just it didn't do anything. Like I really like Formula One qualifying. Like to me, that feels like an event, like kind of a race of itself, though it's not. And so to kind of for it to be shuffled back to Friday and kind of this wilderness that is Friday afternoon or Friday morning, it's just like, like that to me should be a much bigger Formula One qualifying to me is I mean, that is what qualifying in a lot of series should be. Like it is an event. Like, oh yeah, watch these guys go out there and try to knock each other off. And to kind of like have that now be diminished, like you know, but I like your point. Like, there's too much practice. Like, you don't need that much practice for 20 cars. Like, come on, like, what are you doing here? And I don't know. I go back to what I said. Like, I would love it if they gave points for qualifying, and then it really meant like you get more points for qualifying, and then you had these heat races on Saturday. And I kid you not, man, you win the heat races, you get points for that. That means something. But then reverse the damn order on Sunday. Like, why not? Like, if you want to make your product better and make it where yes, it's artificial and you're juicing it, but wouldn't it be great to? I mean,
No,
I know it's a pipe dream.
You can't do an inversion in Formula One. They're already so anti-gimmicky type
But
stuff.
they already
anyway.
that drives me crazy though. I hate that mentality because they are gimmicks. They have all sorts of gimmicks. They used to have a double points race, the last race of the year. That's as gimmicky as it gets. Like they've got areas on the tracks where you can draft, and like I mean, to sit there and say that we're not gimmicks and we're pure, that is a load of crap. Like
I think the sprint race itself is enough of a gimmick. They don't need to then invert the field for the Grand Prix.
But at least you're like rewarding. Like I mean, if you're gonna juice the action, I mean, Max said it. I mean, Max was right, and when he said like Formula One should figure out how to have more than 2 or 3 competitive cars out there, or like that's the thing. And if you
what'd you think
of
Max versus George, by the way?
What's going on? What like yeah. Why? Like what it's like Max is like angry at the world and he's got no reason to be.
Like that wasn't even investigated by race control. Like that wasn't even, the stewards didn't even look at that as an incident.
And they investigate everything.
They investigate everything. They didn't even bother looking at that. And Max is like so pissed. And George thought he was going to come up to him and be like, hey, hard racing, whatever. And instead he was like dropping F-bombs, and he called him I don't think we can say it on this podcast since we know kids listen to this, a D head, on TV there.
People forget like Max forgets like how he used to race and still does on occasion. Like
I mean,
I mean, it's like it's very much a do as I say, not as I do, and it's just like it like I don't mean to like we'll go full circle here, back to Ross Chastain. Say what you will about Ross, but he doesn't get pissed when people race him hard. Like he
doesn't get pissed when the shoe's on the other foot.
No, and like I respect that. Like and that's say what you will about him, but like he is like, hey, you want to race me hard? Like cool. And like in Max, it's like, I'm going to race you hard. I may shove you off the track, but if you dare try doing that to me, there's going to be hell to pay. Like I just, that's hard to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Anything else from this week that you want to touch on? Next week, big talk about head-to-head type stuff. You've got Miami Grand Prix for F1 and Kansas NASCAR at the same time, I believe. So we'll be in Miami this week.
Always going head-to-head against Formula One. A couple years ago, they went head-to-head against Coda.
That's right. Yeah, the fall race. Yeah. You and I will be in Miami for a brief hello, although we won't be able to record a podcast there. We're having our staff meeting. We're meeting our F1 group because they're going to be in the States. Luke Smith, we're going to hang out with him for a little bit, have a little staff summit, compare some notes. Maybe we can get him on the podcast sometime. That'd be fun. And then they will stay and cover Miami, and I will go off to Kansas, and then you will be at Darlington next week. So, and then North Wilkesboro will be
you and I
there. That's going to be fun. And then we'll split up for Memorial Day weekend. Did you know we're, for the first time, I don't know how many other media outlets can say this, probably not that many. I'm sure there's at least one, but for Memorial Day weekend, we're going to have somebody at Monaco, Indy 500, and Coke 600. So we've got somebody on site at all three. That'll be cool.
That'd be very cool.
So yeah, anyway, lots of fun stuff. This is, as you said, the statement month. So at least for NASCAR and obviously for IndyCar as well. And for F1 probably too. So anyway, we'll talk to you all very soon. Thanks for listening to Teardown. Talk to you next week, everybody. And our YouTube people as well. Thanks for listening.
Fun. Appreciate it. Good times. Lots to talk about today.
We'll see what Jordan brings next week for the for his suit there, but
where am I in Darlington? Man.
For the Kansas podcast, when I'm in Kansas and you're I
don't know. Maybe like a Wizards outfit, like Kansas, back in Wizard of Oz kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, it's not something you'd find outdoors, that's for sure.
God, no. I don't do hiking. Why
I think you've made that clear. I think you've made that very clear. No. All right. See you, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.